It has been 2 years since we moved from the United States to Colombia, and it has brought about a lot of little changes for the two of us. It's also been very challenging in some ways because there are things that we just really miss about the United States, and we just don't have those things here in Colombia. So today in this video, we're talking about our changes, our challenges, and answering 10 questions that will kind of reveal all of that.
Yes, we're going to talk about the things that we miss, that we don't miss, how we have changed, how routines have changed, and stuff like that. Just to review our experience as expats moving from the US to Colombia. Question number 1. What's the biggest change you have noticed for yourself after moving to Colombia from the United States?
The biggest change I've experienced is that I think less like an American. And I say that in that a reflection of like comparing Colombian culture to American culture, like Americans really prioritize their careers, they prioritize their jobs, they prioritize a lot of things about their life around work. And you just don't see that here in Colombia. When people take lunch breaks, they're like an hour and a half, 2 hours long. People are more casual about their jobs and their businesses. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of frustrating at times because the customer service isn't as good as you would experience in the States because they kind of don't care about that as much. But I also see the casualness that brings because they prioritize relationships over careers. Whereas I've seen a lot of times, in at least my lifetime growing up in the US, people will just prioritize their jobs and their work schedules and break their boundaries for everything else for their work. And I've started to think less like that, less career oriented over time. But that's the biggest change that I've experienced.
For me, it's a little bit different because this is my home country. So my biggest change has to be related with my family and the dynamics between my direct family, so my parents and my siblings. And I think the biggest change has been healing a lot of our family dynamics, me having more patience with them, and just having a better time overall with them. We don't argue as much anymore. We just try to have a really good time and create really good memories together because we have all learned to value our time together because it is not something that's given anymore.
Yeah, and I have to dig into a little bit here because I think this would be interesting for our audience to know. But like you left Colombia at the age of 24, and that 6 months later you met me
Yeah.
in the United States. So when you came, what was causing you? What was making you say like I gotta leave Colombia and go to the U.S. or any other place?
A lot of things I wanted to explore. I wanted to be an independent woman because Colombian culture tends to be kind of sexist, and I am the oldest daughter and the only daughter. With my siblings are guys, so like my dad protected me a lot, and like I just couldn't have like as many jobs. Like I just didn't feel very independent. So it was very important to me to go somewhere else, and the United States was like the easier choice to go find myself and find my independence.
Yeah. And I think that's what was inspiring to me when I met Whitney was that she basically was like, "Hey, I'm learning English." She was reading really complex books in English, and her English is not like her English is dramatically increased over time um, through our relationship. Obviously, you have an American job and you speak in English all the time, but there was a point in time and she was like, I want to get this English down so that I can go back to Colombia and get a second degree and write my thesis in English. I thought was very admirable at that moment in time. Still think it's admirable, but it is interesting now that you've come back and you've had that reflection of like, hey, I'm an independent woman. I can live on my own, make my own decisions, and the time I give to you is really a gift, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really interesting to watch that, to see that. Question number 2. This is really for Whitney. Now that you're back in Colombia and living here, how does it feel different to how it was prior to spending time in the United States?
I mean, we talked a little bit about that in the question before, because now I'm an independent woman and now I make my own decisions. Like uh, really, I listen to my parents' advice and when I ask for it. But I don't necessarily have to do what they tell me to do anymore, as opposed to like I did when I was 24, because I was still doing that. Uh, so the dynamics are very, very different, especially with them. So I feel like, I mean, I'm an empowered woman and I can take my own decisions. So that's like the biggest
Biggest change.
change.
Yeah.
Yes. Question number 3. What's your favorite thing about living in Colombia versus living in the United States?
I think this is a contrast for me. This is a contrast between where I was living in the United States to what Colombia has a lot to offer. So, Dallas, Texas, very flat, very plain. So there are no mountains. The closest mountain range is like a 3 or 4 hour drive away. So, or to get to some hills. So I love being next to the mountains because there are plenty of hiking opportunities, and it's just easy to get to a trail that when it's a safe trail, and just be surrounded by nature, which is something that I love experiencing often, and just doing like a quick 2 or 3 hour hike. Yes, that's quick to me. It's not taking the whole day. But the second thing that I would say that's my favorite is that we get to spend time in Bogota and be close to your family, and that just really boosts your mood, and you bring that kind of like happy energy into our relationship, which is really nice. What about you?
I mean, you mentioned mine. My favorite thing is living close to my family. It's a 15-minute walk from our apartment to their apartment, and we go there at least like 3 or 4 times a week. So we just casually drop by during the week, and we have a lot of plans during the weekend with them. So that's been my favorite thing, just spending time with them, creating memories with my little brother. And it's just been really fun, seeing him like remember moments, super silly moments that have been imprinted in his mind and are part of him now.
Like the moment when we went to McDonald's
McDonald's.
recently, and he saw a picture of the ice cream, and he's like, "Oh, I want that really bad." And then he got the ice cream. I'm gonna show these clips. He got the ice cream, and it looked nothing like the picture. And it was like expectations versus reality.
Yeah.
Just small moments like that where
Yeah, we made like a little joke with him, and now every time he sees a McDonald's, it's like
he
a
thinks,
moment.
thinks of that
Yeah.
stupid moment. All right, question number 4. Ooh, this one's heavy. What's the most difficult thing for you with living in Colombia versus the United States?
I mean, the first one that comes to mind is safety. I don't feel as safe here, but it's just different because in the United States, I didn't feel safe in crowds because, like, I am actually terrified of mass shootings. And that was something that was constantly on my mind. So it was something that would cause me a lot of anxiety. So not having that has been great. But in the United States, I was able to walk around with my phone, with my engagement wedding ring that I don't really use in Colombia because I'm terrified.
It might get stolen.
It might get, they might kill me for my ring. Uh, and so it's different. Like safety is the first one. Another one would be definitely friends, because like the majority of my friends are now in the United States. I don't have as many friends here in Colombia anymore. So like the community aspect of it, I do miss. And yeah, what about you?
Yeah. Just narrowing it down to the top number one thing. So something that I used to do in the United States that I just really don't get the opportunity to do here at all, because of safety concerns, is my way of kind of like winding down and self-regulating and just, calming myself down was in the evenings. I would go for a walk with my phone and my headphones in, for like 30 minutes to an hour most days, and just listen to a podcast or listen to music or whatever I was feeling at the time. And I could just go meandering in a nice, beautiful neighborhood or where they had walking trails. But you cannot do that here because the probability of you getting robbed is so high. I mean, the type of crime is this petty crime where like motorcyclists come up to you and just like snatch your phone out of your hand. Sometimes they even take out guns and they'll point them at you and say, "Give me everything you have." So that is a reality we live with here in Colombia. So like coming to Colombia was a shock to me. Like 6 months in, I was like, man, I really miss, especially summertime, because the sun sets around 6 o'clock here every single day. So like I always looked forward to the summer times where the sun would stay out till like 8 or 9 o'clock, and I'd go for a nice long walk, and it would just really rejuvenate my energy. And I'm like, I don't have that anymore, and so I miss that so much. And there's not very many places that we have been where you could even try to do that activity safely. Yeah, the only place you can do that really is like if you're on a really rural trail that's so far from a city or town. But the closer you are to any city or town, in most places, you're going to be vulnerable to that, to those safety concerns.
Number 5. Other than what's been mentioned, what are some other things you are grateful for with living in Colombia versus the United States?
One of the number one things that I'm grateful for almost every day is I have not needed to own a car. I don't own a car, so I'm not paying for car maintenance. I'm not having to think of where to park the car. I don't have to have car insurance. I don't have to have all these stresses that is normal in the United States, where
Pay
like
tolls.
pay tolls. Oh my God, when you take a random toll that you didn't realize was a toll. And then, but yeah, things are so walkable in most towns and cities that there's plenty of grocery stores nearby, so you can get your groceries. We work remote jobs, so we don't have to go in the office or anything. So our need for commuting is like very, very minimized. Only on the weekends are we really commuting, and if we commute, we're either taking taxis or public transportation, and there's way more of that here than, say, especially compared to Dallas, Texas, way more availability of that, so it's easy to get around. I have loved that so much. That has really reduced a lot of stress in my life.
So for me is how many more activities we're able to do, because one, we have more time, and two, like our exchange rate, the exchange rate is on our favor of like Colombian pesos to dollars. And so we're able to afford more things, and we can go do a lot more eating out. We can go do a lot more activities with the family, and or on our own. We have a gym membership to a really nice gym, and we both have a personal trainer, which is something like crazy to say. But
We've been using a personal trainer, Diego. We'll put his Instagram here. Follow him on Instagram if you're into that kind of thing. But he's been awesome in the Cedritos
neighborhood.
Body Tech and Cedritos. And, it's much, the fact is that it's more affordable for us for services like that. Like services like transportation, things like paying a trainer. What other things are much cheaper? Food is sometimes
Food.
quite cheaper.
I've taken Pilates classes, and that's how I really got into fitness.
I mean, like the real numbers, like a personal training session in the United States would cost you anywhere from 40 to $60 per session, right? So here it's going to cost you, about $12 per session. So that's like a huge discount compared to what we would have. So we're very, very thankful for that. Being here, and that also causes us to be a little more generous in cases that we can be more generous, just because we know we have a currency favoritism.
Yeah. We realized that we have a lot to say about Colombia versus the United States and the things that we like and dislike. So this video has turned into a 2-part video. So thank you for watching part 1, and come back for part 2 next week.